Now, you'd think a brawl between Batman and Superman would be over relatively quickly, right? I mean, for all of the Dark Knight's gadgets and know-how, a guy who is actually bulletproof is still a guy who is actually bulletproof. Now, Bats and Supes are supposedly best friends, but there have been many times where the two have been forced to come to blows. And some of those times, Batman, through sheer ingenuity or will, came out on top against the mightiest superhero around. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 unbelievable times Batman beat Superman. Number 10. Batman, Superman, and your number 1. Now here we are with a fight that sits at the bottom of the list, since neither party were fighting all that seriously, but it still counts. In this annual issue of Batman and Superman, the duo find themselves at the mercy of a gladiatorial arena where they are ordered to fight to the death. Now obviously the two aren't actually going to do this, but in order to buy some time until one of them can think of something, they at least try to make it convincing. Thus we see that, in terms of raw fighting ability, all else being equal, Batman will come out on top. Granted, the conclusion is nothing decisive, ultimately keeping it from being further up on this list, but the way that the fight was going at the time showed Batman distinctly at an advantage, so I'm willing to call it for the Caped Crusader in this scenario. Also keeping it from getting any higher is the simple fact that Superman wasn't fighting seriously, so it's hard to truly gauge how well this would have actually gone for Bruce otherwise. Number 9. Batman the Dark Knight, number 5. Now this may come as a shock, but the majority of the time, Batman and Superman don't want to fight each other. Like, not even a little bit. They are friends, and friends don't typically resolve any issues they have with each other by beating the living daylights out of one another. So in order to get them to fight one another, writers have come up with rather convoluted misunderstandings, or failing that, have the tried and true mind control plotline. In Batman the Dark Knight number 5, Batman gets hit with a new strain of Scarecrow's fear toxin, turning him into a raving lunatic with super strength to boot. It comes down to Superman to get him to snap out of it, only for Bats to take advantage of the fact that Clark doesn't want to hurt him by beating him to a bloody pulp. Superman technically wins here, downing Batman with a solid right hook, which is what keeps this entry from getting any higher, but the Caped Crusader was very close to, for the first time, downing the Man of Steel with no tricks, gadgets, or edgelord robotic suits. Number 8. Superman Red Sun. In this alternate universe where Superman's craft instead landed in Soviet Russia instead of Kansas, Batman is reimagined as a violent terrorist who hates Superman's guts to the point of gleefully bombing buildings full of people just to draw him out. Their final confrontation takes place in an underground mineshaft that the Dark Knight has filled with lamps that all have the rays of a red sun, thus weakening Superman immediately. If it wasn't for Wonder Woman making the save here, Superman would have actually genuinely have been done for. Number 7. Batman Hush. Batman Hush holds the distinction of being one of the most terrifying examples of a Batman-Superman fight, purely because Batman genuinely comes off as outmatched and way in over his head. For context, in this part of the story, Poison Ivy has used her powers to seize control of Superman's mind. When the Dark Knight and Catwoman get close to unraveling this scheme, Ivy sends her new boy toy to make a nice pair of grease stains out of the both of them. What results is less a fight and more a desperate struggle to avoid the out-of-control Kryptonian by any means necessary. It doesn't last long, of course, as Superman demonstrates that if he got serious, Batman wouldn't have even had time to react before he was murdered. Fortunately, though, Catwoman makes the save by appealing to Kal-El's primal need to protect others, and she does this by throwing Lois off the side of a building, thus snapping Supes out of the mind control when he instinctively goes after his love. Number 6. The Dark Knight Strikes Again. The Dark Knight Strikes Again follows up the legendary fight of its predecessor by having Superman invade the Batcave at the behest of the government, only to find Batman there, waiting for him, with a pair of kryptonite gauntlets. No armor this time, which you think would make this fight a bit more one-sided, but with Bruce having wrapped his arms completely in kryptonite for this fight, Superman can't do much but get knocked around a lot. This fight is the highlight of this infamous series, but if that ain't faint praise, I don't know what is. Number 5. The Man of Steel, number 3. When John Byrne was given the task of rebooting Superman for the first time in the company's history after Crisis on Infinite Earths, there were of course a lot of aspects of Superman's mythos that suddenly needed to be explained that the original 1930s comics just never bothered with, one of which being just how exactly Superman and Batman met. With Frank Miller having similarly rebooted Batman in the pages of Batman Year One as a dark, mysterious vigilante, naturally the two don't start off on the right foot. Batman claims to be trying to be a little better in his approach to superheroing, but considering that he starts starts off their relationship by forcing Superman to help him stop the villain Magpie, or else he'll set off a bomb on an innocent civilian, the last son of Krypton isn't exactly convinced. It turns out to be a complete lie, of course. After Magpie is put away, Superman confronts Batman about the bomb, and Bats just puts it in Superman's hand. The only life in danger was the Dark Knight himself, a ruse he pulled to get Superman to help him stop Magpie. Now, Batman doesn't defeat Superman in the classical sense here, but he does start off their relationship by establishing a key difference between them, and that is, I am smarter than you. Number 4, World's Finest, number 240. The Silver Age of comics was the Wild West for DC, and I don't just mean that there were entirely too many cowboy comics during that time. Literally anything could and probably did happen. For example, one of the first instances of Batman becoming a rebel against a tyrannical Superman was actually from this time, and in true Silver Age fashion, it was very weird. In this story, Kal-El is pressured into assuming the leadership role of the shrunken city of Kandor, and in a twist that I'm sure will never be copied by cynical edgelord decades later, almost immediately becomes an emotionally erratic tyrant over the poor Kandorians. Sensing that they perhaps made a bit of a mistake, the Kandorians call in Batman to deal with the problem. Bruce agrees and soon discovers the true root of the Man of Steel's turn to evil. The monstrous creature responsible for corrupting Superman into a vicious fascist tyrant is a cat from outer space. If you caught that reference, congratulations, you've officially watched way too many Disney movies. So anyway, through a hilariously convoluted series of misdirections, Batman manages to get the cat off of Supes and get him back to his senses. Basically the same conclusion as the previous entry really, but nicer. Number 3, Superman, Batman, The Trust. This beautifully rendered mini-story by Chip Kidd and Alex Ross is one of the best encapsulations of Superman and Batman's friendship and how deep it runs. Brainiac has now seized control of the last son of Krypton and is using him to wreak havoc. Now, Superman and Batman aren't idiots and have discussed what measures need to be taken should something like this happen, so Batman pulls out a gun and gets to bloody work. As you can probably guess, the gun is loaded with kryptonite, so as Batman grapples onto Superman's legs and takes aim, it appears the story is headed for tragedy, but Clark is Bruce's best friend, so of course Bats would never break his one oath when it came to the Big Blue Boy Scout. Instead of a bullet, the gun is loaded with a kryptonite dart that accomplishes the same thing without killing Superman, allowing Bats to finally remove Brainiac's control device. A glorious win for the Caped Crusader and a touching reaffirmation of their friendship as well. Number 2, Batman Endgame. Now, the biggest problem with Batman Endgame as a story, besides it being one of the worst offenders of Scott Snyder's need to insert a chapter's worth of text into a single bloody panel, is that it played its trump card way too early. The storyline starts on Batman having a knockdown, drag-out fight with the entire Justice League, and it's so glorious that anything after this can only lead to disappointment. Case in point, the star attraction of the first half of the story, a Joker-fied Superman going toe-to-toe with an already run-ragged Batman. The world's greatest detective has used the Fenrir armor and all the countermeasures it has to neutralize half of the Justice League, but not without taking some licks himself. And while the suit is tough, this is still bloody Superman that we're talking about here. At the end of it all, Batman just barely manages to eke out a win by spitting kryptonite gum in Superman's eyes, sending them both to the bottom of Gotham Bay, thus demonstrating Batman's ultimate point during these first 2 issues. Who wins between Batman and Superman? Well, I will take neither. And number 1, The Dark Knight Returns. Now, despite our dig at Frank Miller in the opening of this list, it could only be this fight at the top of things. This fight is the biggest reason why anyone remembers The Dark Knight Returns. Batman and Superman had fought in the comics before, but Miller sat down and asked, okay, no holds barred, both sides giving it their all, who would actually win and how? Superman, now a stooge of the openly fascist American government, rolls up on a blacked out Gotham to bring the Caped Crusader in. Batman, knowing that this was always how it was going to end when he took up the cowl, has prepared for the fight with the now iconic armored suit. The resulting fight is one of the best in comic book history, a genuine back and forth with both sides employing a mix of strategy and brute force to try and get the other to stay down. But Batman has something that Superman doesn't: Green Arrow, who hits him with a kryptonite arrow the second that he isn't looking. The kryptonite doesn't kill Clark, and Bruce seemingly dies immediately after due to a heart attack, but killing Clark wasn't the point. The point was to show the world that the US government's superweapon wasn't invincible, that they can be defied and even defeated, and that real change can come. And boy howdy, does that sound pretty good these days. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 unbelievable times that Batman beat Superman. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can swing by Instagram where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.